So we have performed the first 3 tasks to implement role-based access control, effective role-based access control. We've created file system objects, directories with matching security principles that map to explicit roles. So we created directories for CSC 465, for team STT, for team STX, and for each of the users, we configured the NTFS file level permissions, including a granular implementation of inheritance. So we set up a series of permission changes, starting with the root directory for the project or for the class, and then we turned on and turned off inheritance at different levels, so that basically team members could see each other's directories, but not change each other's directories. Opposing teams could not see each other's team directories or team member directories. Everyone in the class could see shared resources and data in the class directory. The team leads could change or modify data and resources in their team folders. The instructor can modify data in the course directory. And what we want to do next has to do with the network side of things. So actually, now that I'm looking at this, we completed the first 2 in the last 2 classes. And what we're going to do today is finish the network side of this. We're going to create corresponding network share level permissions in a complementary fashion, but without inheritance. So one of the things we want to explain is that when you're making these resources accessible across a network with named resources and with scripts, login scripts, that basically the way you set up share level permissions across a network, that's different than NTFS file level permissions on a hard drive. So I'll explain more about that in a minute. But it really doesn't make any sense to set up shared resources so that you can collaborate with data and applications if people have to log out and log into different machines in order to be able to access those. In an enterprise environment, what you really want is for people to log in wherever they are and to have access to their resources wherever they are. And that involves network access, network permissions. And one thing about traditional network access is that it doesn't have inheritance capabilities. It's either on or off. So that's going to imply some things about how network access is configured. And that's going to be a little different than what we did on Friday for the NTFS level permissions. Did everyone get a chance to see the 444 resources that were emailed?
Yes.
Okay. So Kanisha says,
okay, it's connected again. So
yeah, I just sent you a text message, Kanisha. You know, if your connection at the campus keeps dropping, you got to call the help desk.
No, it's not. It's the whole camp. It's campus wide.
It's the
I
whole
think
camp.
it's from St. Thomas too, so it affects us. That's what they said.
Well, you need to send an email with requests for support, and you can CC me on it, please. Because the claim we're getting from the IT department is that, you know, as far as they know, there's no problem, and they need to know where and when this is happening. So as it's happening, if you don't take screenshots of a disconnect, and then bring up an email screen and send email to helpdesk@uvi.edu, and then CC, you know,
Well,
Timothy.
they did send out the email this weekend. They sent out an email this weekend saying that some issue on St. Thomas is affecting us here, so that's why we don't have any Wi-Fi.
They did on the portal, on the My Campus portal.
Yeah, yeah, they sent it to all the students, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we're experiencing because it happened this weekend. It was on this morning, but it came out a little while ago. So everybody's calling everybody about the internet issues now.
Okay. Well, I didn't see that notice,
Yeah.
but I'll go ahead and look for it. Okay. Well,
Okay.
well, let's.
I could send it to you if you want. We want to get the internet.
Yeah, that would be helpful. But let's follow up with that afterwards. If you're still having difficulties, just let's see. You're saying that they sent out notice that there's going to be problems. Did they send out?
The whole weekend they didn't have any. This morning they had, but it went off a little while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see what is out here. So sometimes I receive email notifications of some announcements, and then other times we don't. It all depends on the population of affected users. So you're saying it was like a My Campus portal announcement that said problems with the internet? And she's dropped again. We're going to have to continue. Does everyone else have stable internet for the most part?
I do.
Okay. Amaya, how is it on your end?
Mine's fine.
Okay. Benaya?
It's okay.
All right. Yeah, Kanisha's back on again, but we'll go ahead and continue and just record, and then Kanisha, you can review the recording afterwards if you drop, okay? All right. So what we wanted to explain is that there's 4 basic tasks. We created the directories and the accounts, and then we configured the file level permissions. That's what we did last Friday. Today we're going to set the network share permissions, and we're going to do this in a way that complements, but we're not going to worry about inheritance because inheritance doesn't exist on network permissions. There is no such thing. There is something called persistent. It's a persistent switch. So once the network shares are set up, what we want to do is trigger those connections and network resources so that when students log in, regardless of where they log in, they're going to have access to their shared resources. And it's just going to be seamless, right? So no matter where you log in, no matter which screen you access, everything that you need for the course, for your team, and for yourself is always connected. But this login script that's going to make that magic happen has to be created or crafted with a specific option engaged. And that has to do with the connection of the network share. We want the network share to disengage whenever a student logs out. So we want to intentionally say, okay, that network share, the drive letter that we connect is going to disengage whenever we log out, which is why we say no to persistent. That's because if somebody else comes on that screen or on that system after you and they log in, we don't want them to see your network, we don't want them to see your network data, your network shared resources. Are there any questions about what we're doing today? So today we're covering the network side of things. So I am going to log into my resource, my screen on campus, because I want to set up the network shares that I was demonstrating for you last Friday. Yay! I'm getting good access here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes.
And that was so quick too, wasn't it? I mean, well, to me, that was quick. In any case, we have Virgo, and I'm going to finish my demonstration for the RBAC on Virgo. Okay. By the way, I'm increasing the course credit for completion of the assessment in Module 2 and for completion of the solution in Module 2. We're going to double the course credit for each of those. So the Module 2 assessment is going to be worth 10 points when we do that later this week. And your solution is going to be worth 10 points. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. It says I need updates. And that's just antivirus. It's always a good idea to update that, but here's where we had our CSC 465 directory. And it says there's an empty folder, but we know that's not the case. We know inside, if I double click this, because of the way I have the permissions set up, with my given login, I don't have access. If I were connecting to this resource as a member of the course, an instructor or a student, I would have read-only access, and we'll verify that in just a minute. But we'll go ahead and we'll set up the share on here. And actually, in order to set up the shares on the team folders, I am going to have to drill back down into this. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And then let's start with David's resource. And then we'll go from there. So what I want to do is set up network shares for each of the team users. And then for the team, I want a network share set up for that, so that the STT, the St. Thomas team, has its own network share. And then I want to set up a share for the entire course. Is everybody with me so far?
Right. I am, and I'm Dave, yeah.
Right, so I'm going to right click this and I'm going to go to properties. And instead of setting up NTFS access rights for security on the file level, we're going to set up network share level permissions. So we're going to go into the sharing option, and we're never going to use this wizard. So you can use all sorts of wizard driven things. You can set up shares using the server manager and go into file and storage services, and then right click and go into sharing options, and there's all sorts of really cool wizard driven things. But I want you to know how to do this on a very basic level, so that regardless of the version of Windows you're working with, you'll always have this common method. So what you're seeing here has been true for the setup of share permissions since Windows 95 and Server NT. Some of you were toddlers or weren't even born at that point when Windows 95 and Server NT were around. But I want you to click Advanced Sharing, and it's considered a best practice to always share the folder name with the same kind of directory name, but put a $sign after it. And by entering a $sign, this engages a switch that basically says, okay, David Willems, his home directory is going to be shared, but nobody's going to see that out on the network. If we don't put the $sign there, when someone clicks on network and they start browsing connected machines or systems, they'll be able to see D. Willems or the STT users directory or the course directory just by clicking and browsing the network. So we want to hide this share. This is going to be a best practice that we do every time. I want you to notice too that D. Willems is also the precise name for his login account. So even though we're assigning permissions directly based on a user, you'll see just in a minute when we click permissions, there's a one-to-one map between the home directory for David Willems, D. Willems, and his account, D. Willems. It's the same kind of thing, and you're going to see why that's important in a minute. We can use some placeholder environment variables for login scripts that are universal for everybody. So an individual logs in with their account, and when they log in with their account, their first initial and last name is used to map to their home directory, which is named what? Well, their first initial and last name. So the username maps to the directory name. And because we've designed the two to map one-to-one, It just works. I'm going to go to permissions though. And this is the part that's just really offensive to anyone who's serious about systems security. Microsoft did this a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when they started sharing file resources and printers. They just wanted people to be able to interoperate. So the default setting is for anyone to read anyone, right? And we're going to.
If I can ask you a quick question, how did you just get to the box again? What was it you clicked to get to the box you're in now?
I clicked on permissions right here.
Okay, gotcha.
So I clicked on permissions, and so everyone is the default listing, and everyone should be able to read this. So if they took a guess and they knew that we were an organization that used best practices, somebody would say, oh, well, my home directory is my first initial and last name. Oh, but there's this $sign hiding it. So they're going to go around the organization. They're going to get everybody's first initial and last name and then try to connect to it with a $sign. And if everyone is intact, they'll be able to see all of the stuff in your home directory. They'll be able to get into your Kool-Aid and read all your data. That's just bad, right? So we're going to remove that. And we're going to add on this level, D. Willems. And we're going to give him the ability to change what's in his own home directory, even if he's connected to it from a distance. So on Virgo, as he's doing class projects on Virgo, and he logs in, his home directory on my machine is going to give him across the network change privileges. Now you're going to say, well, he already has that. Yes, if he's logged on directly to my machine, if he has logon privileges on my machine personally. Now think about that. How many people do you want to give permissions to log into your system personally? Not usually many people. You might only want yourself to be able to log into your machine, right? And the simple truth is, if we set up the file level permissions to allow people to share or to view, they still can't get to that unless they log in on that machine itself. It's not very useful, but the real power comes in when you overlay the network share permissions on top of the NTFS file level permissions, right? The access rights. So we're going to say David has the right to change and read, and we're going to apply. And you notice there's no option that has anything to do with inheritance here. It's either on or off, and it is what it is. Now we did say that we also wanted his team members to be able to read. So we need to add STT users, and we want them to have read permissions when they're looking at his directory. So if they happen to connect to his directory for whatever reason and map a drive letter, if they get through on the network level, we want them to only be able to read. So whenever we set up network permissions, we want there to be a one-to-one correlation between what we set on NTFS inside the file system and what we set for access across the network. Does that make sense? We want to be consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply, and then OK, and then apply, and then OK, and then close. I'm going to back up one level, and I'm going to take STT users now. And I'm going to go to properties and sharing and advanced sharing. I'm going to share this folder with a $sign so it doesn't blink at everyone when they click on network. Because people get on their machines and they're like, oh, what's on the network? We don't want that stuff to be open and readable by everyone in the network, just the people we want on the network. We're going to click permissions. We're going to remove everyone again, because that's just obscene. What are we going to add when people connect to the STT users? Who should have what permissions? If it's similar to what we did for file systems on Friday?
The STT lead,
Say again, Asil?
the lead,
Yes.
STT lead.
Hey, yes. That's an excellent point. So we're going to add the STT lead because we want the STT lead to have change permissions. So the STT lead, who in this case happens to be David, it's his turn to be the lead, right? And then next week it'll be Ray, and the week after that it'll be Benaya, right? So everybody will take turns being the lead. All we'll do is change the accounts that are listed as the roles of the leadership changes. We're just going to change out the names in that lead group. So we'll have seamless changes all the way across because we've taken the time to create these placeholders for a given role, a given responsibility. And even though the names change, we don't have to go in and reinvent everybody's securities, right? All we do is change the assignments to that role. So I'm going to say STT lead for change or modify permissions. And then I'm also going to add STT users. And we're going to leave the STT users for read. So when they connect to this directory, their team directory, they can read anything in there across the network. This is the same as what we have for our NTFS. Again, we're just not worried at all about inheritance, right? Inheritance happens on the file level, file system level, not across network shares. So I'm going to say, oh, I'm already sharing STT users. Am I in 410? No, I'm on. Do you want to share? Oh, okay. I see. I already have the share for the former class. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to do this instead. So at this point, I'm going to say, okay, and then close. Then I'm going to do one more thing. I want to set up the class folder. So I'm going to go to properties, go to sharing, advanced sharing. I'm going to share with a $sign. And I'm going to change the permissions, remove everyone again. I'm going to add the CSC 465 instructor. And what is the instructor going to be able to do? Change, right? And then I'm going to add CSC 465. Anyone who's in a member of that group, a member of the 465 class, they're going to be able to read. So what I've done now is I've created this level of shares on my 465 directory. And what I want to do is to see what happens when David logs in and how this works out on David's side, right? So essentially, David has a home directory on Virgo, my system, and it's D. Willems, but then he has two network directories that he's also supposed to be able to connect to. And we want the class directory security. This is system security. So because security starts with the letter S, we're going to say that we want him to have a drive letter S. Every time he logs in, we want this directory to appear on his machine. But I want to check to make sure it's working first. I want to make sure it's working first. If I set all this up correctly for David, we should be able to connect with David's machine and log in from his file explorer. And then if that's working correctly, we will be able to disconnect, and then I'll be able to set up the automatic login scripts. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to ask David. David, can you log into your server, please? And share your screen, the CSCRA. Okay. I see you have a nice responsive internet service too. It's moving right along. Okay, so David, all right, so I want to explain something here. Each of you are building your own server resources as if you were creating your own exclusive workplace or workspace for our class. And you already have your own CSC 465, but what we want to do is kind of change this. And David, would you mind expanding your side menu and then maximizing your screen there? Yeah. Full screen at the top, yeah. Where it says full, not, yeah, right below disconnect, it says full screen. Okay, great. And then can you unmute your microphone so I can hear you? Because I'd like to be able to, whoops. Go ahead and share again, please. David, can you share your screen again?
Okay, sure thing.
So each of you are building your own separate independent resource for the class, and we want you to configure it so that it works for everyone. And we want you to be able to do the same thing I just did. But for this next step, to verify that my resource for the class works with David, I want David to ignore what he's doing for a moment with his own class directory. I want you to click instead where it says this PC. Can you see where it says this PC?
Oh, okay, this, oh, this PC.
This PC, right?
Okay, click the arrow on it or,
Just click it, yeah, where it says this PC.
okay.
Click right where it says this PC. Okay,
Oh, okay,
good.
yeah.
So now your menu's changed at the top, and you can maximize this screen also. It might be good to maximize this screen.
Okay, mix it, yeah.
Okay. So if you go up to the upper left corner, there's a menu called Computer.
Yeah, this.
No, Computer, the menu Computer. Just hit Escape.
Oh, oh, this.
No, the
Hit
menu.
escape?
No, the menu. Up at the
Oh,
top.
this.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, so this is kind of a out of the way thing, but this is, again, this has been in place since Windows 95 or Windows NT a long time ago, 1995. Wow, a long time ago. Click the map network drive down arrow. Yeah, that. And select map network drive. So I want you to say backslash,
Backslash.
and then type Virgo dot groovy.net. Let's use the fully qualified domain name. And then backslash. And then type in CSC underscore 465 $. Okay, and I want you
Okay,
to change the drop down from drive letter Z and select S instead.
S is,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Now, for giggles, I want you to uncheck the box that says reconnected sign in.
okay.
Yeah, because we're going to do this with a script instead. And I want you to click finish.
Ready?
Yep.
Now?
Yes.
Good.
And what you see are STT users and STX users inside the course folder on Virgo, my machine, right?
Right.
And
It's got
that-
those funny little dots in the upper right corner of each manila
Yes.
folder symbol that mine would not have had. Right.
Yes. Okay. So click on this PC again.
Okay. This PC. Where is? Oh,
On the
this
left.
PC.
On the, yeah, that works too. So you have an S drive. And if we were looking at stuff for the class, if I, as the instructor, put something out there, you would be able to click on that and see it right away, couldn't you?
Yeah, down here.
Yep, down there. So I'm going to do that very thing. I'm actually going to get on my screen for just a second, and I'm going to put in something that says, hello, David. Okay?
Okay. Should I double click or?
No, 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 no. Just hold off.
Yep.
So I'm going to type in a new text document that says, hello, David. And I want you to see, you know, pretending that I'm the, the instructor for the course now. Go ahead and click it open now.
Get this here.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I double
click it.
click. Okay, there we go. Okay, hello, David. It's there.
There it is. Yeah. And I could put a message inside that, but let's say that's data for it's an introduction for David, who's a member of our course, right? And I have introductions for every member of the course. So you get the point, is that I'm the instructor. I can put anything in there. And all you're doing is clicking on the S drive for security, system security, right? Now let's set up a G drive for the group. Aren't you a member of a team?
Yes.
Yeah, let's use drive letter T for team instead of G, right? So go back to this PC, and then I want you to click on the computer menu up above again. And this time I want you to map a network drive like you did before.
Network drive.
Yeah. And I want you to put in / virgo.ruby.net.
Virgo.groovy.net
groovy.net / STT _ users $.
Okay, this is going to be for a derived T, you said,
Exactly.
in finish.
Yes. Now, if we set up our network permissions correctly, you should be able to set up something right in here, right now. So I want you to right click and I want you to create a new text document and call it hello team STT. Good enough.
Well, almost, except they said hell.
Yeah.
I forgot the O. Okay.
Yeah. Spelling.
Just click enter now.
Yeah.
Like just click right there.
Yeah. And in a minute, when Benaya and Ray connect, they're going to see that message, right? Because why? Well, you're the lead, so you can put stuff in the team folder, but you can't put things into Benaya's folder. You can't put things into Ray's folder, right? Now, you could double click into D. Willems, and you could go in there and put something in your own folder, but we don't want to do that. We want to give you an
Okay.
we want to give you an H drive letter for your home directory. We want it to be drive letter H for home. Okay.
The computer.
So we're going to go to computer and map a drive letter. And we're going to connect to //virgo.gruvi.net. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
H.
No, not for me.
H drive, yes. H drive. Okay.
And
You're gonna say
we'll go, no, none of this reconnected. It's signed.
no,
So just finish.
no. You got to finish putting D. Willems $.
Oh, okay.
Okay. D. Willems S
Okay.
$. There we go. And hit finish. Okay. So you could put something in your own directory, and if Ray were logged in or Benaya were logged in, they would see what's in your home directory. So why don't you put something in your H and call it yeah, double click and right click and put a text document in there like you did before that says just for Ray or just for Benaya. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Super nice.
Okay. So Benaya's got the idea now, if he's watching, that when his setup is in place, he's going to be able to look in the team folder and he's going to be able to see in David Willems' directory your data, your resources, because you're collaborating, right? He just can't change anything, right? He can copy it into his and then he can modify it and stuff, but he can't copy what you have in your home directory. So the power here is each of you have granular controls over what you post and what you share. And when people access it, if they want to use it, they can drag it into their own directory, into their own drive, and then they can change it afterwards, but they're not modifying your work, your data, your resources. So everybody gets to share and see, but nobody gets to muck with each other's Kool-Aid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. It's a very, very powerful model for collaboration. And if you can design applications around this security model, it's almost bulletproof. It's very hard to hack because it depends, then your coding anticipates the use of best practices for system security. Now, what we want to do next is going to seem counterintuitive, but if I have just 5 minutes of your time, what I'm going to do is demonstrate how to automate this so that when David logs in, all the connections he had to do manually, no matter where he logs in, whatever he's on any system in the groovy.net domain, all of these connections, drive letter T for team, drive letter S for system security for the course, drive letter H for his home directory, it automatically connects. Automatically. So he gets to use our course resources no matter where he is, no matter what he's logged into. Think about the power of that flexibility, right? If his system is down, he just borrows another screen and gets on, and away he goes, right? It's really cool stuff. Very resilient, very durable. So what we want him to do is click on this PC.
This PC.
And we want you to select one at a time each of the drive letters you just mapped. And I want you to right click it and disconnect it.
Okay, so right click.
Yep, just right click it and disconnect. Yes. and right click and disconnect. And right click and disconnect. Okay. This is all right. And now you're going to close this screen. And what you're going to do is sign off of your laptop, off of your remote system. So you can close this screen too.
Close this,
Yes. And then you just
sign
want
off.
to, yeah, you just want to, no, not disconnect. Okay. what you
Oh,
want-
sign off.
Yeah, you want to select your start menu and then sign out. Yeah.
Okay.
But I want you to remain connected, okay? Because you're going to log in
Okay.
just a second.
Right.
Does anyone have any questions at this point based on what we've demonstrated already? Okay. So,
No, nothing there.
okay. Can you stop sharing then, David? Because I got to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. So what we did was we took care of this and we tested this manually on David's machine to make sure it's working for him. Now I'm going to set up a script that runs so that when David logs in, no matter where he is, it's going to connect. And when he logs out, it's going to chop the connection so that it doesn't stay mapped. It disconnects when he logs out, right? And that's going to take very little time for me to do. I'm going to go to my system now and not just on Virgo. I'm going to go on to Antares now, the domain controller. And does everybody remember when I was talking about how we used the first initial and last name for the account, but we also used the home directory name for the same, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here we have David Willems, and I'm going to right click properties on his account because I want to look at his account properties. And under his profile, see, his account is D Willems, and I'm going to look at his profile. And for his home folder, I'm going to connect to drive letter H. And I'm going to use //virgo.groovy.net /D Willems $. Well, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a percent username percent and $. Remember, there's a $sign at the end of the share, and that percent username percent, this is whose account is this? D Willems. So if I use that as a standard setup for everybody, I can basically copy this and paste this into every user's H drive. And as long as I have the share set up, when you log in, it'll connect to H. So what am I saying? I'm going to hit apply. And I want you to notice too, there's a login script option. I'm going to show you. This will connect the S and the T drives. I'm going to create a login script right here. We're going to call it CSC465.bat. And then we're going to set up the commands for that. And it's going to be similar to what we did, only we're going to use the command switches instead of using a mouse and a keyboard in a GUI. So I'm going to hit apply. It says, oh, the folder wasn't created because you don't have access on the blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to say okay. And then I'm going to go to Ray. And what am I going to do for Ray's? going to go into account, profile, H, do the same thing. H drive, I'm gonna hit apply. It's gonna give me the same static because it's gonna say, hey, I didn't find the path. Don't worry about that. We'll create that later. Do the same for Benaya. Can everybody see what's going on here? I'm reusing that one statement to connect everybody's H drive, their home directory. I don't have to type in their individual names. I just have to apply this, right? And the next time Benaya logs in, as long as I've set up his share on the network, it'll connect like it's supposed to. But I'm not quite finished yet. I want to circle back at this point and I want to finish setting up David's. So I'm going to go into the notepad and I'm going to right click it and run as admin. And I'm going to create a new, and I'm gonna say at @echo_off. This is just good practice. And then I'm gonna say net use S drive, and then I'm gonna say // virgo.groovy.net / see, S drive was the CSC _ 465. That was the security course. There's a $sign on the end of that. I'm going to put a / persistent no. And then I'm going to do the same thing, only I'm going to make it a T drive. So I'm going to copy and paste this just to make it happen quicker. And instead of CSC, it's going to be STT. Everybody see what I'm doing here? Everybody see this?
Yes.
I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save it as a batch file inside the Groovy.NET scripts folder. So I'm going to call this CSC 465.bat, right? Now, something weird happens. It's going to try to put a TXT on the end of that. That's going to keep it from working right. So I'm going to go in there into my C drive and fix that inside Windows, System 32, or sysvol, Groovy.NET, scripts. There it is. Oh, okay. Let's view file name extensions. So it didn't put a TXT. It should run just the way it is. So I got CSC 465.bat. So what am I going to do next? I'm going to go back into David's. And I'm going to add this to his login script, right? I'm going to say CSC 465.bat. And because it's in the logins, it's in the scripts folder inside that shared directory on the domain, every time David logs in anywhere in the domain, it's going to look to that folder and it's going to pull this script and it's going to run it. And then it's going to run this. So I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to stop sharing and I want David to share his screen now and log in and then we're done.
Okay, so
I'm going to
okay.
stop sharing. Hold on. And if you would,
I share, go to this and the alt delete, log in again. Okay, yeah, that's
now there is a chance that David's system isn't going to pick up the change right away. So there's a command we can issue to force it
But
to pick that up, but go ahead and log in, David. And if we have to, I'm gonna fix that so that, yeah, I think you're good.
oh, what did the,
Yeah, just cancel
oh, this
that.
is
Yeah, just cancel it.
just cancel it?
Yeah, just cancel it.
Okay.
Open up your file explorer. Click on this
This
PC.
piece,
Magic. But it's not magic. It's a God-sized blessing. When things work like they're supposed to in an enterprise environment, the system security is really tight. Basically, you see what happens if David logged in on any other machine, he would still have his H drive, his home directory. He would have his security course directory for the course, 465. He'd have his team directory, the T drive, right? No matter where he logs in. And I can specify which machines David has the rights or privileges to log in on. And right now, because I haven't specified any one in particular, he can log into any machine on the domain. So if his own system goes boom, it doesn't matter. He just gets on another machine and away he goes. So he has granular access where he can control and put in the things he needs in the team folder, but he can't change things inside. So I'm going to demonstrate that. I want you to double click on the T drive.
oh, double click on the T drive.
Double click on the T drive. And I want you to open up Benaya's. Now you put something for Benaya in your own home folder.
Right.
So Benaya, if he was looking inside your home directory, he would see what you left for him because you named it, right? But I want to see if these safeguards are in place. I want to see if you can muck with Benaya's Kool-Aid, so to speak. I want you to try to right-click something, and I want you to go to New, and I want you to go to a text document.
Nope.
No. You can't, can you?
Nope.
Now Benaya can. Benaya can connect and he can get on his H drive, put something in there for you or for anyone else or for himself. But you can view what's inside. It's an empty folder right now, but if Benaya got in there, once he's set up, he can set up something that you can view. You just can't change it. And you can't create anything new. When you try to right click and go to create something new, no, you don't have permissions. So what did we do in our class today? We set up the network share permissions, and then we set up the automated scripts so that when someone logs in, no matter where they log in from, the course resources, the team resources, and their own home directory follow them wherever they are. And everybody has the permissions they're supposed to have. Any questions before we finish today? Okay.
Actually, I did. It have been about security rather than shares.
Say again?
I had a question. It have been about the security thing with our own computer rather than doing this at the share level.
Yes, and I do have the video from Friday out on YouTube now. I just have to put it in Blackboard. But let's
Okay.
right. So for those of you that would like to stick around, if you have your own questions about the file level shares from Friday, if you were working on your own machines, we can take a little time to go through that together. If you have to leave because we're past the point we normally stop, I understand. Does anyone mind if we stop the recording at this point?